Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to round number 6. Sports Car Series is live at Rudskogen. In the booth with me, as always, is Mr. Finicini. Actually, Finn, I didn't check to make sure that your voice is already down in here real quick. Give me 2 shakes. Give me 2. Hang on. I'm gonna get it. I'll get it sorted out. Just give me 2 shakes. Give me 2 shakes. Now let's give it a try and see if anyone can hear Mr. Finicini. Finn, thanks for joining us again for round 6.
Absolutely. Happy to be back. A lovely weather we're having over in Rudskogen this afternoon. It's been a blast to be here, and welcome. Happy to be back, as always.
Yes, sir. The weather is nice here at Rudskogen. 20 degrees on track, or excuse me, ambient temperature. We got 71% humidity, partly cloudy skies. So I don't think the drivers are going to be complaining too much about track conditions being a factor for any kind of like limiting performance from mechanical grip. But Rudskogen, however, technical track, I think it's going to be a challenge in multi-class. What's your experience so far, sir, with Rudskogen?
With Rudskogen specifically, it is very, very limited. It is. I've drove in here early on in my iRacing tenure here, and then have not been back since. So, but from what I've seen, both in this evening, last night's pre-practice, as well as what I've seen elsewhere on the where its real life counterpart exists, and the footage there very much leads to the technical sectors of this track being very difficult, and traffic management will be big, especially like in the S's, and then the hairpin there at turn 10.
Indeed. I think, I'm a big fan of the technical circuits, as you know, so I'm kind of very interested to see how the Sports Car Series gets on around a circuit like Rudskogen, because this track is like the closest to some of the ones we've run in previous series, like Oschersleben, one of those types of like really technical European style track, most of the time used for things like touring cars, DTM, that kind of thing. So
Definitely something.
go ahead.
Sorry, excuse me. Definitely something that doesn't have as much of a disparity in terms of pace and the differing in downforce like we do here with the LMP3 and the GT4 categories.
Yeah.
But I absolutely agree. I don't think I've seen a track quite like this European style technicality since Oschersleben last season.
Yeah. With that, ladies and gentlemen, again, we got round 6 on offer for you here today. Our typical 90-minute affair. We do have our Pro and AM championships still firing along, and we'll get to some of the current standings once we hit the qualifying session, or at least the build-up towards qualifying. Single competition yellow flag is going to happen at the 20-minute mark, and we do have our continuing our fuel adjustments of 60% tank on offer for LMP3 and then 50% for GT4. As you can see, the technical nature of Rudskogen there from the track map, it's going to be an interesting one for everybody. But let's go ahead and get some of the race data pulled up and see what everybody's doing in practice right now. So, surprised to see Mr. Ethan Hamlin on top in LMP3 with rocking a 1:16.77 right now, and then Stephen Wallace again on top in GT4. He's pumping in a 1:25.71. It looks like the Ethan and Steve still two to beat in their respective categories pace-wise.
Would have to. I mean, it's been no huge change versus previous weeks for us, but definitely cool to see the consistency there across different styles of tracks. This is a little bit different pace, and the tempo here is, I would say, quite a bit different than the street circuit of Long Beach, where we were at 2 weeks ago, or last week in the calendar, but 2 weeks ago in real life. So it will be interesting to see how they fare in qualifying when they have a little more room to stretch their legs and aren't so having to navigate traffic of free practice. for their raw times and pace.
Indeed. And we're getting ready for lone qualifying, but before we get too far into it, while the drivers are on their out laps, we do have the times for free practice. Ethan Hamill with that 1:16.766. Andrew Monroe, not too far off the pace. Wonder if somebody can step up in the pro category and keep Ethan honest here. We've also got some newcomers, Alex Valesco, and I believe we also got some more newcomers over in GT4. Let's go take a look at the results from them right now. GT4 category, we've got Stephen Wallace on top with that 25.707, and then Scott Fleming. Looks like he has brought some pace to Rudskogen. Maybe he can take the fight to Stephen Wallace, and then we've got the battle in P3, P4, P5. Tommy Cogan, Anthony Newman, and William Lewis. So that is your practice result times. Let's get stuck into qualifying here.
Yes. Everybody's completing their out laps, but it looks like on my track map over here. So it'll be interesting to see how well they get around the track, see if those practice times are equally, I would say, congruent or similar to what their raw pace is in the back of themselves on the track with nobody else to worry about.
On board with Corey Lobner here in the Porsche Cayman, starting off his first flying lap here at Rudskogen. Let's get that track map pulled up for everybody so they can take a peek at how Corey's getting on relative to the circuit. Again, we got 14 corners here at Rudskogen. That technical section in Sector 2 and the end of Sector 3, I think, is going to be the part where I think the LMP3s in particular are going to have a tough time. I don't know what you think.
I would have to agree. I think especially if they are in traffic, both with each other as well as with lapped cars, those GT4s, I think it will be very difficult for them to get by in a manner that doesn't jeopardize either their own line or potentially the GT4 line that they're going by, without being effective and decisive. I think between turn 4 and 5, they have a little bit of room to get their nose in the door, and then at the turn 8, I think would be the only other place I can think of that it's like they have more downforce to go around the outside of those corners than the GT4s do, and make that corner stick without losing too much time.
Yeah, that's going to be such a tough complex for the LMP3s. We got our times coming in, sir, and Jaden Ledbetter actually pips Ethan Hamlin for P1.
Very nice.
That is a stunner of an opener for Mr. Jaden Ledbetter. Samuel Wilson, he's about to finish his lap out. We got more times coming in. We're going to try and follow along, ladies and gentlemen, with folks that are coming close to the end of their timed laps. Because of the nature of the lone qualifying format, it can make it kind of tricky to follow along with cars because we're basically focusing on a single car at a time. So we're going to focus in on those that are getting ready in their laps, so we can kind of see where they're going to kind of end up in the pecking order. Samuel Wilson across the line, and it looks like he's going to slide in P6.
Very nice lap from Sam Wilson there.
Yep, P6. That's going to give him a shot at Vincent LaRue. And here comes Ryan. So Ryan, where's Ryan clock in at? Ryan's slotted in behind Corey Lobner with the 27.52. So that's going to put him 7th in GT4. And we still got more times coming in now. Logan Branson, Wookie, helping us out actually by helping us get affiliate, which was super cool.
Yes, big thank you to Logan for helping us with that.
He's going to come across the line. Where's he going to slot in at? He's going to slot in 9th fastest. So it is definitely starting to heat up here. Now, while we were watching Logan, Ethan Hamlin did take the provisional pole with a 17.3 13, so definitely made a statement there, jumping 0.6 ahead of Jaden Ledbetter. Just looking through the field right now, somebody who's actually kind of out of position right now in the Bucky's Mercedes AMG. Stephen Wallace right now currently in P7. Going to try and put together something a little bit quicker. Try and take the fight to Scott. Yeah, he does. He's got one more shot. It's all on the line now.
This will definitely be shake things up, make things a little interesting for Stephen Wallace there, if he doesn't get this lap down versus where he was in practice and having to navigate traffic from a different spot in the field than probably he's used to with this crew. Could make this for a fun race for him, or something a little different. But that's to see if looks like he's a little bit up on the relative versus his pace, but we'll see if that stays true.
Indeed. Tanner Schaffner is going to come across the line, or Schiffner is going to come across the line, and he is going to slot in 4th fastest. Stephen Wallace is getting ready to enter turn 13 to turn 14, the long right-hand loop to close out the lap here, and Stephen looks like he is purple, at least in Sector 2, and he's got personal bests in 1 and 3, so is it going to be enough? And it does. It looks like he's going to leapfrog Scott Fleming by about over 2.5 tenths. So Stephen Wallace is fighting back here.
That he is, and I think that's, you always want to have that banker lap, and I think he maybe took his time getting across the line there. So it'll be you see a lot of the margins between Stephen and Scott. I think will make for some really good racing as we get into the first bits of racing. The separation between Gabe Chavez down to really Mark Hansen Andrew Monroe and down to Mark Hansen. The P2 to P6 in the LP3 category is such a tight margin.
Yeah.
Between all three of those for all of their lap times. So it'll be interesting to see how they get those pace and how consistent that pace is for a single lap.
All right, looks like Sean Sullivan's going to bail out of his lap. Logan Branson's going to try and finish her out strong and see if he can leapfrog Christopher Blue. I think he's going to have to settle for P11. Does improve his time, but not his position. Oh, no. I see it now. He was just a little bit off his time. To the tune of about 7 hundredths of a second. Stephen Wallace is going to come across the line, and looks like he's going to extend with a 25.82. And we're just waiting on Alexander Brown to finish his lap out. Although, actually, I'm starting to notice that he might actually not be showing up on the relative. So that could be it for your qualifying. We're going to wait for the results to plug in over on the SDK side. And then when we go into the warm-up, we're going to get to those qualifying results and see how everybody did.
Absolutely.
Based on kind of what you've seen so far from the field, which, I mean, we've had kind of like a limited view of it. I've been doing the Jimmy Broadbent race with the New World Sim Racing guys. I think you've been watching some of that too. What do you think so far from what you've seen?
I'm really interested. The LMP3 Pro category this week has a very tight grouping of competitive cars for that P1 to P7. Ethan Hamlin, he's been so far undefeated. I think numerically, statistically, that may be the same, but at the same time, we still got 90 minutes of racing to do here. So it'll be very interesting to see where everybody's, how that order shuffles between what we're seeing on this quality times and what we'll see in the race. That's one that's sticking out to me. All the cool newcomers who are able to join us here for the LMP3 AM category, and where they're, shuffling in to their respective positions, I think is also very cool. Between all those and then the GT4 AM category, we've had basically a different person in the top spot of our standings boards each week, and I'm interested to see who will claim that top spot this week, and if Chris Blue can hold on to it for a little bit longer.
Indeed, I think that is going to be Definitely something to look out for. The fights, like Finn was telling you, ladies and gentlemen, the fights in the categories are not determined at all. I mean, with Ethan kind of in a very strong position, I mean, it kind of like LMP3 looks predetermined right now. But when you look up and down the pro and AM categories in both classes, there's still some really good close fights. And if you look at GT4 Pro for a long time, you're going to realize that with those drop rounds coming into effect towards the end of the season, um, an upset could be in the works here. But we're gonna get to the track here in a moment. But before we do that, Finn, let's talk about those qualifying results. So the LMP3s, no shock, no surprise there. Ethan Hamlet with a 17.133, but Andrew Monroe, 3/10 off. What do you think? You think he's got a shot?
I think if he can find that last bit of pace that separates between him and Ethan, I think there's definitely a chance there. Because that's kind of the margin we saw with Vincent last week, last time we were out at Long Beach. And that fight ended up turning really interesting. I say if Ethan there's a lot more, grace here, given that we have, there's not walls on the edge of the track. You get a little more runoff. But I think if Ethan keeps it tight, he has a very good chance of, still being P1 and, going pole to flag. But I think at the same time, if he's got, I think a couple slip ups is all that it'll take to put Andrew within, a very good fighting distance, if not in front of him, and then it's a battle of keeping Ethan behind him at that point.
Yeah.
So definitely a possibility there, but we got 90 minutes, and a lot happens in those 90 minutes as we've seen. So could be any of those people. I think from P1 down to P7 that could end up at the top of the leaderboard.
Yeah, this is going to be very interesting with these margins, especially with all these new faces and the margins being so close in the different classes. I think it's going to be this is going to be interesting. I didn't show up to Rudskogen getting geared up for a surprise like this, but it's a pleasant one. It's a welcome one for me. GT4, sir. So Stephen Wallace 25.823, Scott Fleming 3/10 off. Thing I'm watching here. Anthony Newman's back this week. Half a second off of the pace, 500ths of a second, less than 500ths of a second off of Tommy Kogan. And then we've got like Tanner Schiffner and William Lewis. Like we've got some really close times running here in GT4. So I'm just kind of interested in your take right now because I mean some of these are AM category drivers. Like Anthony Newman is a AM driver, and I'm really interested to see like how he gets on in the race against the top 3 pros that are running in the category right now.
Absolutely. I think it'll be the interesting thing that we'll have to watch there is the consistency. A lot of the pro drivers, they're fast for a reason. They have that pace both in quality as well as in race trim, if you want to call it, a race pace. So if that, but if Anthony Newman can keep that pace consistently, I think he's got a really good shot at getting some really good points here. What I'm also interested to see is how far Chris Blue is down the order by comparison. He's currently on the top of the leaderboard in GT4 AM category. And, he's not that far away from either Anthony Newman or Corey Lobner, both of which are above him. So it's going to be definitely a bit of work for Chris to maintain on that P1 lead in the GT4 AM category.
I think. Go ahead.
No, sorry. I didn't have much of that thought, so by all means.
So the thing about Christopher Blue that I'm actually kind of interested in this scenario is he hasn't exercised a drop round yet, and he's sitting on a 21-point buffer right now between him and Corey Lobner. I'm kind of curious if at any point in time Chris is going to rest on his laurels a little bit, and maybe is he thinking to himself that Rudskogen might be the track that ends up being that drop round. If it were me, I'd be all gas, no brakes. But that's me. But I mean, the drop rounds do offer you a strategic advantage for a circuit that you might be weaker at.
I definitely think it's something that might get. He might not be intending for it to be a drop round. If he, is here all of the weeks, it might be the one that because he scored, finishes lower here. It depends on. He could have a hot run and end up, right next to Anthony Newman there in P4, P5. But it's, if that is, he does end up lower on the order for in the final result, then he definitely would use that drop round, whether or not he means to, versus, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So with that, we can take a brief moment now and pull up the race info screen because we don't actually have the championship points on display for the folks at home, but you and me, Finn, can talk about it because we got the spreadsheets. I mean, you look at Scott Fleming right now in GT4 Pro, 242 to Jared Jones 196, and that's a gap. Now, no drop rounds between either driver at the moment, but I'm gonna bet that Scott Fleming is gonna look to Rudskogen to maximize point total, continue to rack up that buffer, continue to have strong races, so that when he gets to the drop round phase of the season, he's kind of well poised to really, you know, walk away with it. His closest rival on pace, in fact, you and me probably could admit this. Besting him in pace so far, Stephen Wallace right now tied for second with Jared Jones at 196.
Yeah.
So I think if I'm Scott Fleming, I am continuing to ratchet up the pressure.
Absolutely. I would have to agree. The interesting thing I'm going to note here that I'm looking over my timing board and I don't see Jared Jones' name in my timing board for GT4. So this will be the drop round for him, which will probably cement Stephen Wallace hopping up to second place. And I say if Scott Fleming is able to keep at least that P2 or maybe even take that P1 away from Stephen, he'll keep building that lead that he's got going, like we've been talking about. So that way, when it comes time to use a drop round, or if he doesn't have to use a drop round, he can just pick, cherry pick those good points finishes.
Indeed. Based on what you're seeing so far from the points totals, you've already kind of tipped your hand a little bit to the audience at home. What other sorts of like fights and stuff like that are you looking at?
Go
ahead.
Outside of that GT4 Pro category, which I was looking to see how close both Jared and Steven were going to finish from each other. I kind of had a feeling that Steven was probably going to be on top of the order, but I was interested to see where Jared was going to finish, see if he can keep on P3 or, have that fight for P1. But not seeing him here tonight kind of takes away one of the pieces of ammo that I was going to use. Like, here's what I'm looking forward to. That was definitely one of them. I think there is still a very hot battle in the GT4 AM category between P1 down to P4 or P5, especially when you have to take into consideration we haven't utilized drop rounds yet, and most of them are sitting on no races or maybe one race, but otherwise very good points finishes. None of that has been decided, so it's very interesting to see if Corey Lobner can keep up with Anthony Newman in any considerable amount, and if he can keep that lead ahead of Anthony Newman, or if that's going to swap, and then where or not if they both leapfrog Chris Blue or not, based on where Chris Blue finishes. Yeah. So that's another one that I'm looking at. Those are my two big ones. I'm interested to see if somebody's able to dethrone Ethan. That's been my LMP3 interest of the past couple races, and I think it's going to be true tonight too, is we almost got a glimpse of that with Vincent LaRue before an incident with the GT4s caused Vincent to have to take a fast repair and drop down the order. I'm interested to see if that, if Vincent has that kind of pace, in that race trim, if he has that kind of pace, because that was the kind of pace, and I think Ethan also had a little bit of damage that was hindering him, but I think there was that, and that's part of the racing. But I'm interested to see if that is able to be happening in my LMP3. That's my LMP3. What I want to see is who can dethrone Ethan, even for a race.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's going to be interesting. It's interesting for two parts for me, right? Like, I really do like the fact that we have people that are showing up now that can really kind of take the fight to Ethan. But I'm also I really do like seeing Ethan kind of like, back pushed a little bit to the wall and still able to, find something else. Like, he was dealing with damage in Long Beach. He was losing ground to Vincent. But, he just kind of like nose to the grindstone, kind of like a never give up attitude. And it ended up giving him yet another win this season. It's kind of awesome when it's just not determined that the fastest guy is going to win the race, when they actually have to work for it. So that sort of thing is I thought was pretty exciting. And the other part that I find exciting about the LMP3s in particular is just for this week in particular, the host of new faces that we have.
Oh
Like
yeah.
we've got like Jaden actually just mentioned it in chat. We got 5 LMP3s, new ones tonight. Now we're towards the end of the season. They're not racing for championship glory or anything like that, but at the same time too, to see that field kind of continue to grow and blossom, for me in particular, that's something that I'm excited to see.
It's always exciting to see leagues expand and grow, because even if they're not racing for the league championship this season, a lot of them, if they really enjoy the type of racing that gets done here, which, that's my hope. That's what I've loved to see. And it's one of my favorite things about this place is the kind of respect and the, craftsmanship that everybody has in racing. They come back for the next season, and they are fighting for those, LMP3 Pro or AM championship titles, or, and all the GT4 people that are still here from all this racing that we've done over the course of the season. It's super exciting to see, and it's very cool. And my hope is that as many people that are here make their way back next season to fight for those championship titles and places.
Indeed. So for the folks at home, okay, camera's doing weird stuff. Sorry. For the folks at home, if you want to be a part of the action, if you want to be a part of the end of this season, Sports Car Series Season 2, or if you want to be involved in the upcoming season that'll be coming after this one, be sure and check us out on thesimcareer.com. For now, I do believe there is some things going on in the background to maybe utilize other services or do other things to handle registration. But until then, definitely use simgrid.com. Just search for Track Limits Racing in the hosts to get more information about the community in general. You can also do ! Discord and chat. Join the community there, and it's a fun group. We're expanding the sports car series. Got exciting stuff coming up in the horizon, and if you want to be a part of the action, be sure and check us out on Discord and on thesimgrid.com. With that, Finn, we're just waiting for this warm up to wrap up, and then we're going to get that grid established for the race. Go ahead, sir.
I would say, just as much as you said that, I think they have wrapped up their drivers meeting, which is what they do during this lovely warm up over on the driver's side of things, and we're transitioning right now. So
excellent. So we are getting set up, ladies and gentlemen, for round 6 here at Rudskogen, the Norwegian gym of technical track courses. I'm really excited about this one. As the cars start to get slotted in, just want to remind everybody again, we got a 90-minute race on offer. We do have that 20-minute competition yellow flag mark, and Finn, bookmark that one. I want to come back to the 20-minute mark here in a moment. But fuel adjustments, 60% fuel tank on offer for LMP3s and 50% for GT4. So it's not necessarily the case that we're looking at a single stopper for either category because of those fuel limitations on a track like this one. Long Beach, I think, was a little bit different, but we'll see if Rudskogen kind of offers an opportunity for somebody to pull a blinder and do maybe a single stop stint. But 90 minutes. The two categories are, we also do have the Pro and AM championships happening in each class respectively. They're going to be mixed within one another when they grid up here. And here in a moment, we're going to get ready to go green. While they are getting ready to do their formation lap, Finn, I did want to pick your brain a little bit about that 20-minute competition yellow. Historically, we've seen the competition yellow kind of as a tool for allowing people that have had kind of more of an unlucky race to kind of come back and get into it. With Hamlet Monroe being so close in pace, and with Scott Fleming trying to maximize his points on Stephen Wallace, Jared Jones, those types. Jared Jones not in the field. Stephen Wallace is. Are we going to be looking at potentially somebody maybe pitting before competition yellow on a track like this one, seeing if they can do the undercut. Because I think with the technical nature of this track, I think the undercut's going to play out pretty strong. What are your thoughts?
I would have to say that it's possible, given that it is 20 minutes in. I think the only thing they'd be taking at that point is fuel, while still trying to maximize the benefit they get from the undercut. I would love to see. We saw it at Long Beach. I wonder if it's going to come out again from Vincent. Is the overcut of not pitting during the pace car when we have that safety car at the 20-minute mark. If we see somebody do that overcut and pit afterwards, because like 20 minutes is a pretty short time frame, even on the 20-minute marker. It ends up being 20 to 25 because of the safety car laps that happen. But it's interesting to see if that overcut makes itself, happens again, because I think that would be a very interesting thing to see. While there is still some time loss there, if they're doing that single pit stop that we saw out of Vincent, which is, I think, possible. It'd be very tight if that's the case. You got to do some fuel saving. Whether or not that comes out again, because I think while the undercut's there, I don't know that there's enough time between the start of the race and the safety car to really maximize that the time in the pits. If that makes sense.
Okay,
Fan a touch. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I can do that.
All right.
I'm actually running out of headroom for you, so I don't know if I need to start bringing everything else down to match you, but we'll figure it out. Anyway,
I can also bring
go ahead.
myself up. I can bring myself up on my end too.
Yeah.
So you can do that and leave me where I'm at on your end.
Understood.
Hopefully, between the two of us, we'll get us up, be up to where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah. So that said, ladies and gentlemen, we're getting into the long right-hander before we go down the start-finish straightaway. Let's get switched over to TV3 camera. Actually, let's go to TV1. I want to get a good front car shot. Man, isn't that field beautiful? Getting ready to go green here at Rudskogen. Round 6 is underway.
Ethan Hamlin just took off at the start.
He got away with a blinder, and the GT4s are packing up right at the start-finish straight. Looks like Scott Fleming's moving over a little bit, but Stephen Wallace gets foot down, and now Tommy Cohen actually is lining up alongside Scott Fleming as they get ready to go into turn 1. Yeah, we got some crashing in the background there in GT4. LMP3 seem to be okay. Do see a couple cars coming back on track. Let's switch over to the auto cam and follow along with the action. There's Vincent. It really looks like he's actually chasing down. Is that Gabe or Sean? He's chasing down right now.
Good job, guys. Tail end of that P1, P6. Very, very similar pace. Similar quality. That'll be consistent over the course of the 90 minutes here.
So after the start of the race, Tommy Cogan actually showing up and jumping out in front of Scott Fleming. That's definitely not following Scott's script.
Well, that is the nature of racing. So it's also cool to see Tommy being able to really find some good pace here, coming off after kind of not think it was the best week for him at Long Beach. So that good start there, I think, carried him a long way, at least mentally, for Tommy there. But I think Scott is kicking himself just a smidgen as they go down the stretch, figuring out where he can find that little bit of time to make a solid pass.
At the same time, if I'm Scott Fleming, I look at if he's got pace on him. Tommy's more in a fight with Stephen Wallace than he is with Scott.
Yeah,
because that's only 9 points separating Tommy and Stephen. So I think also might be a situation where, okay, you got pace on me, fine. Just go ahead and drive off. Although seems to be fluctuating within a half second.
Yeah, they're not super. It's not taking off. Still a little bit of time, but not a whole lot.
Mark Hansen in the LMP3 field. Now we've also got Gian Cardoso, and yeah, so Mark Hansen currently running in 4th in the overall in front of Gabe Chavez, and trying to chase down Jaden Ledbetter. Gian Cardoso trying to find his way around Dylan Sauer. The auto cam is kind of being a little bit nutty right now with the LMP3, so I'm just going to focus in on. We're going to focus in on Dylan. Dylan's trying to run away from Gian right now, and that definitely seems like. A heck of an aspect. Now, Virginia leading the LMP3 field in the AM category. We actually don't have Milo with us, but Milo's actually got a drop round to potentially leverage here. He's participating in the Jimmy Broadbent race for mental health. But yeah, Dylan Sauer right now trying to pull away from Gian Cardoso.
Really struggling, looks like, in some of these sectors. That up looks a little bit different, but it's everything. So seeing Dylan is a little poorly. The car doesn't really want to plant that power down. I think that's currently costing a little bit of time, but GM jumping on the way up.
Indeed, as Gian's just looming in the background. Sauer. Somebody else who's looming right now is Mark Long. Is trying to chase down Alex Velasco. Both Mark Long and Alex. Newcomers here in the Sports Car Series. Some of that new blood that you love to see.
Alex really good laps in practice. I'm wondering if he has some of that pace in. Didn't really have as much in qualifying. It looks like he has the ability, and it's just really about that consistency. It's that getting that difference between pro and AM categories, and cars tend to be in both of those.
Ooh, Mark Long cooks it a little bit deep on the entry into turn. I believe that is 13, and then now he's going through turn 14. Now got the car back on track, and he's going to try and take the fight back to Alex. Let's take a look. And over in GT4, Corey Lobner, we were talking about him in the qualifying section right now. And he is currently behind Dave Chamilio, who has a very energetic Cayman that he's trying to white knuckle through this complicated section here in Sector 2.
I think Corey and Dave were both who we saw have a rough start to the race. And I think that's going to be part of why Corey's as far down as he was. He did qualify pretty well for what we recall. And a little bit of damage on that front end, which is a little scary.
Yeah, we should go back and see if we can get on the replay cam and see a little bit about what happened during the race. Let's jump back a little bit, because I think this might have been some of what was involved. Oh, it is acting weird. It's just got the Apex logo. It's not doing anything. Oh. I can't tell if it's going to run or not.
All right.
Looks like it's just being weird.
Well, if you want to jump back to the front, I kind of see roughly that.
Yeah.
It looks like there was a little bit of checkup from Dave, and Corey wasn't expecting it. He bounced the front quarter panel, his front left, off the back of Dave, and ended up spinning the car, trying to keep it in control, bouncing it off the guardrail between the pit exit line and the main racing line in turns 1 and 2. And that ends up how he got the damage that he does now and where he is in the order.
Indeed, but Corey, we've watched Corey for a number of rounds now, so I think Corey's got, now he's got the bit in his teeth, although the LMP3s are actually starting to filter through the GT4 field, so might see a little bit of havoc as these classes start to mix together here at Rudskogen. Checking back in with some of the fights up at the front in LMP3. Mark Henson still trying to chase down Jaden Ledbetter, but actually Gabe Chavez right now looming in the background. Let's ride on board with Gabe. We'll take a lap around here at Rudskogen. Oh, drag race right now going down the start-finish straightaway. We've got Mark on the inside moving over into the line right before the braking zone here at turn 1.
Very tight battle between the two of them.
Yeah, this is exactly the kind of action you want to see here. You can see the rear end of the LMP3 just seems to be kind of squirrely under braking around here. This is kind of, I think, what you were talking about before, Finn. Correct me if I'm wrong with the technical nature. And whoa,
A little slide there out of Mark Hansen. Might be. I think it comes back to that. These cars, I think, are probably more suited for that medium to high downforce. Medium to high speed corners where they have the downforce from the speed that they're going at. And in some of these slower corners, they're starting to lose some of the traction in the rear end that due to the lack of wing that they put into the cars for that to really capitalize on that speed of the two kind of big straights they have, both after turn 2 and that start-finish stretch.
now this is very interesting watching these two LMP3s dance through the GT4 traffic. And ladies and gentlemen, that's how you do traffic management right there when you're in the faster category. I thought that was quite well executed from both Gabe and Mark.
I absolutely have to agree. I think it's a really good, reference point to go, here's how two cars can get around slower cars in a way that doesn't kill anybody, which I think is something that I really enjoy out of this league is the respect most of the cars have for each other on the track, regardless of which class they're in.
Indeed. Interesting. Looking right now, looks like we might have had a little bit of drama. Not sure what happened here. Vincent on track. He's got a broken wheel. You see that on his front left?
Mm-hmm.
Something must have happened here. Let's see if we can go back and find out what happened to Vincent a little bit later. Okay. Oh, all right. That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Looks like there might have been a little bit of GT4 traffic that was complicating things. And who was that got into the side of Vincent there? Sharpie,
The Sam
Is
Wilson.
that Sam? Yeah, Sam.
Sam Wilson.
Now, here's the thing. I bet his car is probably worse for wear as well, because that was a shot.
It looks like it.
Anyway, that's what dropped Vincent to the back of the field. So now Vincent's going to be using that 20-minute yellow flag timer to try and maybe get bunched back up to the back of the LMP3 field and try and maximize some points there. Bad luck for Vincent again. Like, just can't seem to catch a break.
That seems to be what has been happening there, and I'm curious to see, looking at that replay, I was wondering if Sean was struggling with that car going into the corner, dealing with traffic on the inside, didn't notice the traffic on the outside that was Vincent, and then between that and then the lockup from Sam put both of them down pretty heavily.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. But, hats off to Vincent for nose of the grindstone. He's going to take the early pit, maybe use that 20-minute yellow flag to maybe pull some opportunities here. And the thing about the traffic here, folks, as you've seen already, is that it has a tendency to make things awkward for everybody in equal order. So just because the field is the way it is right now doesn't mean that's a given.
Absolutely not.
So just looking through the field right now, the field is starting to stretch out now. So that 20-minute mark is going to be a welcome sight for us, because that's going to probably get us back into some really good close racing here at Rudskogen. Christopher Blue, we're talking about him at the beginning of the stream. Finn in 530. He is currently sitting in P7 behind Ryan. And, yeah, he's trying to maximize his points as well. Where's he at relative to the other AM drivers? I think it's just him and Anthony that are in the front of this field here.
Yep, at this point, that is the two that are at the top of the AM field order. Anthony Newman himself, and then not far behind him, that Logan Branson that we've been talking about. Those three make up your kind of AM podium. Very good, solid, stable drive from Chris so far. Been making up time there as he's been going.
Moving through or letting the LMP3 traffic move through him and keeping his nose clean. That's the thing that I'll definitely say about Chris. That's something that I think has been kind of a tailor-made about Chris Blue as a GT4 AM driver right now. Is just shows up every week, puts in a consistent race, keeps his nose clean, sitting with 169 points on top of the AM field.
Yeah. Just winning the laps, doing so successfully.
Tommy Kogan right now, currently still sitting behind, well, I say still, sitting behind Anthony Newman right now. So drop down to 5th in the overall. Let's see if we can dig back through the data and figure out what happened to Tommy.
Oh, there's a pretty hefty spin from the GT. Sorry, LMP3 that has spun him into the infield at the last corner before the start finish. I think that'll be something that'll get reviewed at the end of the race.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Oh.
This is what we're talking about. Let's get ready to go into the final corner. That long right-hander, and he just gets a bit of a shove and manages, hats off to him, manages to stomp on the brakes with enough time to not drill Scott Fleming in the driver's side door. So not what Tommy wanted, but at the same time too, he didn't take out anybody in the process. So hats off to Tommy on that one.
Absolutely. Good heads up.
Yeah.
Good heads up awareness from him, and with that competition caution that's coming up here in just a moment or two, in 5 minutes or so, we'll be see if he can't get some spots back through either pitting early or doing that overcut that I've kind of been mentioning here and there.
We're on board with William Lewis as he's chasing down Logan Branson right now. Logan was watching a little bit of Logan's stream on preparation for this one, and he said that he is a huge fan of Rudskogen. Laments his pace around here, but you know, he's sitting right now 9th in the overall, and that right there might be, if I'm correct, yeah, that might be good enough for 3rd in AM right now. So not really hurting too much in that scenario. But we'll see, because he's got to hold off William Lewis right now, who is kind of moving back and forth.
Yeah, Williams' pace has been kind of a little all over the place. He has some sectors where he does really well, and then some sectors where he seems to be struggling to find the same pace. Even if Williams does get by him, he still has a good 10 seconds to Corey Laubner behind him for his next position in class.
Yep.
Or in specifically in the GT4 AM class. So definitely still making good points, I think, whether or not he ends up in front or behind of Williams.
Yeah. Indeed. Let's take a peek now and see. So 17 minutes, 15 seconds. So we are getting close to that competition yellow that you're talking about. Does look like Dylan Sauer has rid himself of Gian Cardoso and replaced him with one Alexander Brown. Alexander Brown, another newcomer to the sports car series in the LMP3 category, currently hounding Dylan. It's going to be tough for Dylan, but he's going to have to figure it out. And the GT4 traffic is definitely making it interesting.
That it certainly is. I think it's like we talked about, that second sector in those areas, very technical. It's going to be hard for them to kind of manage traffic depending on how successful they are and how quick they are to make decisions and stick to them. Alex Brown finds Dylan.
Yeah, Dylan goes a little too deep, and Alexander Brown just able to sweep underneath and get the move done. Out in front now, Dylan Sauer greeted again by Gian Cardoso, who is nipping at his heels once again.
Absolutely. I think Dylan's really struggling to keep the pace with that car. You can see it kind of, there was a lock up there a little while ago. Definitely kind of having that mental game of what isn't working between my car and the setup and myself that's causing me to lose so much time with these lockups, which I think is exactly why Gian's sitting there biting at the heels of him to try to get by.
Indeed. 19 minutes down, so we are 1 minute away from the 20-minute competition yellow here in our 90 minutes of Rudskogen, round 6 of the sports car series. When the 20-minute mark passes, we're going to see the field get normalized. Gabe Chavez finds his way around Mark Hansen to move up into third. Looks like we've got a couple of things that have happened in this race. Just taking a look right now, it does look like Jaden Ledbetter decided to take a pit stop early. Maybe we're seeing some games starting to happen.
I think that was damage. I'm not sure that was intentionally a game. I think he was missing a wing prior to his pit stop. And when he came in, he got that bolted back on with one of the fast repairs. One of two, I believe, we have at this circuit for tonight's event.
Understood. Let's see if we can look back and figure out what happened there for Jaden. Well, it's doing the weird thing again where it doesn't really want to show me what happened. Do we at least get some information? I mean, he clearly goes off track. He's got some definite stuff going on there. Not really sure why the replay is only playing for some of the data we're going back and taking a look at. And the competition yellow is now out. This field's going to bunch up, Finn, and then we're going to get this order reshuffled so LMP3 and GT4 are with their ilk, and then we will go back to racing.
Good to see. I think we'll get some wave buys for those of us that, those drivers that need it. Big person I'm thinking of is probably Vincent LaRue. Really benefit from it.
Indeed, we do have, with that competition yellow being underway, we're waiting to see what's going to happen with the pit stops. Are we going to see another? Is Vincent going to try and? Well, I mean, Vincent's already kind of like good for a pit stop after the early accident. But I'm kind of curious. Are we going to see something with somebody trying to pull that one-stop route like we saw in Long Beach?
That would be. I'm curious if there are any that are going to try it after seeing Vincent attempt it at Long Beach. But I think with the amount of technicality to here, we have a lot less room for that kind of fuel saving without losing a lot of time here. But could be wrong.
Okay. Taking a look at the data here, we do have some people that have pulled those pit stops early, like we were talking about, Finn. Waiting to see when the pit lane is going to be opened up for those LMP3 and GT4 cars.
Could be this time around is going to be my thought process. Once the pace car comes back to the start finish after doing a full lap, it should open up for those LMP3 drivers, and then we'll have GT4s. They'll go by next time around. My understanding of how it works, but might get pulled away to help out with the wave rounds, but I'm not seeing anybody hopping into cabins to do it.
Oh, there goes Ethan. He peels off into the pits. So we got the scheduled pit stops happening now under competition yellow for the LMP3 runners. That means GT4 is going to be moving around the field behind the safety car after that is all said and done. And Stephen Wallace currently going into, looks like he's getting set up to come around the start-finish straightaway.
He is one of a handful of GT4 drivers that are on the only one lap down, and there are some that are 2 laps down. They will not be 1 lap down after this, and then those cars that are 1 lap down will be on the lead lap. So it's interesting.
Indeed. Looking right now, Jaden Ledbetter actually coming into the pits again. Ethan Hamlin out after a 15.08 second pit stop. Ethan Hamlin is firing on all cylinders to get out with a fast pit stop. Not sure if he's going to be dealing with tires. That 15.08 gives me a feeling that was just fuel.
That was going to be my thinking as well.
No. Andrew Monroe with a 25.23. Maybe he took the tires now and might go long on a set and then just do fuel at the end. Who knows?
That'd be my thought.
Yeah.
Depending on how hard you are on these tires, they can go a pretty decent way. I think now would be the time to take them when you're under that competition caution. And the other option is, depending on how much you take care of those tires, you do a no tire stop. No tires, keep the same set on from start to finish. Kind of risky, especially if you get into some of those things where you're locking on brakes, or the cars are getting real squirrely on you and you're being real hard on the tires to get it to go. It's entirely possible.
Indeed. Waiting to see when the GT4s are going to pull the trigger. So with that, if we're looking at LMP3s already pulled their pit stop, I'm seeing Vincent now behind the safety car, I believe. Has not gone in for another pit stop. Jaden Ledbetter did. I believe. Yep, GT4s are going in now. So.
Yes, that they are. Vincent looks like he got his wave around to be at the back of the LMP3 grid.
Yes. So he's released. He's gonna zip around and hopefully get. Actually, kind of hoping he gets back before the GT4 cycle out.
I think he might be behind a couple. It'll probably depend how fast he can get around the track and how long they stay in the pit lane. I am going to pop down real quick and make sure that they don't need to around, so they got that mostly sorted.
Understood, sir. See you in a bit.
Yep. I'll be back in a moment.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about some other winners and losers after the first pit stop. I say winners and losers in the kindest terms possible. But Gabe Chavez going in 15.52. Again, looking like just a fuel stop for Gabe. Jumps to second in the overall in LMP3. Dylan Sowers, same song, same verse. He manages to get out with a 15.68 and moves up into third in the overall. So that's going to be interesting for Dylan in the LMP3 category. So Andrew Monroe, again, our first to take tires, we're assuming 25.23, currently sitting fourth overall. And Mark Hansen's going to round out your top 5. Jaden Ledbetter, after having a really strong qualifying, got involved in some kerfluffle. We don't really know the whole story. Couldn't see the full replay data to see what happened, but currently running in P11 in LMP3. And Vincent LaRue getting getting the wave around, and he is going to slot in around the back. GT4 is now getting their version of the wave around, and that field is going to get restacked behind LMP3, and we're going to go racing here in a minute. Just want to remind everybody again, if you are interested at all in being a part of the show, simgrid.com, search for Track Limits Racing and the hosts. Follow the community, join the Discord. The season's got some really good rounds on offer here at the end. Let me pull up the schedule for everybody so we can talk about that here in a brief moment. But yeah, simgrid.com is the place to go for right now, to follow the community and then join the Discord, be a part of the community, and get involved in some of these races. We've got 2 more rounds after this one. The one I'm looking forward to the most, November 23rd, we are going to Sonoma Raceway and doing the Cup Historic Layout. I love Sonoma as a track. I think it's going to be fabulous for this kind of racing, and I'm really super excited to go there. And then the series finale, Virginia International Raceway on December 7th, a 2-hour finale. I think that's going to be super exciting. So if you're interested at all in being a part of the show or just tuning in to the broadcast, that's what we got on offer. And then definitely follow the community to keep your eye on kind of like what comes after season 2, because the boys in the background are coming up with some really interesting stuff, and I think you're going to be really excited to see it. 29 minutes, 20 seconds into round 6, and the wave rounds, I believe, have stopped.
They have completed. That is correct.
That might be our fastest set of wave rounds we've done all season.
I think so. I think it's been one of the I would say, in terms of crashes and cars that have had really rough races, it's been pretty calm.
Yeah.
I think the worst that we've seen has been, I think probably Vincent's incident early on, as well as Dayton, who in turn 12 locked up the entire car and put the rear end into the tire barrier behind on the outside of that corner. And that's where he lost that wing and went to the pits the first time. So
yeah. So he's going to be looking to try and recover as many points as possible and try and keep his championship strong and healthy in pro category, because while Ethan Hamlet is sitting on top of LMP3 pro category with a lot of points, Jaden Ledbetter, 252 points, Gabe Chavez, 206. He's got a buffer, but, I mean, this isn't the series where you want to throw away good points. So Gabe Chavez currently sitting in second in the overall, so has an opportunity for some really good points to try and close that gap to Jaden. Safety car's in. I guess this means we're going green.
That is the case.
Ethan Hamlet puts a hammer down and actually catches both Gabe Chavez and Dylan Sauer sleeping, although Dylan Sauer might actually make a challenge on Gabe Chavez. They're getting ready to go into turn 1. And he does. Mark Hansen's in the mix. Who else is in there? Is that Alexander? Or no, that's Andrew Monroe.
Yes.
On the inside line of Mark Hansen as they get ready to go down into, I believe that is turn 4.
Turn 4, 3 and 4 is the 2 of those. Fantastic driving.
Indeed, and we missed the start of the GT4s, but Stephen Walls gets out to a firecracker start and already has 7/10 up on Scott Fleming. Looking back through the field, though, Tanner Schiffner is almost glued to the rear end of Scott Fleming right now.
Really trying to find the last bit of pace to get that move done and try to get up in the order to P2.
Oh, buddy, looks like we might have ourselves some drama in the LMP3 field. Let's see if we can take a look and see what has happened here for Andrew Monroe, the person that we thought was going to be really taking that fight to Mr. Ethan Hamlet. Into the technical section, Mark Hansen in the background. Is there a touch? Yes, there is a touch. But because of that spin there, relatively unscathed. And Andrew Monroe back on the black stuff and back in chase mode.
A lot of ground to make up, though, in a pretty competitive field, so it'll be interesting to see how far he can get back up there. I know it's one of those things where you're always going, why?
Yeah.
Whenever that happens, it's
Yeah.
like,
It's
there's
rough.
plenty of room there, but, that's racing, and that's the nature of things. And, everybody's making their own judgment calls. There's, 28 drivers on the grid, all of them making their own calls, so it's 28 different decision-making happening at the same time,
Yeah. And let's talk about that for a moment. Let's celebrate that now. We are in round 6, and we have 28 drivers fielded for Rudskogen, and we have so many new faces. This right here seems like a series that is really starting to grow. It's really starting to find its own path in the broader world of sim racing, and it's good to see this field this strong 6 rounds in.
Absolutely. I think it's one of my favorite things. I would say one of my favorite things. I say about a lot of stuff, but something very good from the sim racing side of things is how much we've seen this gone from a 20 car grid to a 28 car grid in the course of 4 weekends of racing. So it's fantastic to see it going going uphill as we get further into the season. Usually this sometimes it'll tend to go downhill or stagnate out at about 20 or whatever we have there. So very cool to see. It's great stuff, and I think it also shows that people want to show up and race this, which is a good feeling for the organizers who put a lot of work and love into this.
Well, we've got Vincent moving through the field now. Race has a little bit of life, kind of like willed into it with that 20-minute competition yellow, and finding himself currently in 5th overall in the 222. Vincent looks like he's poised to make a bit of a comeback drive here.
I think he is. Definitely looks like he's put the hammer down, finding his corners, making those apex and exits. He is absolutely seems to be on a tear trying to get through the field back to where he was fighting with Alex Brown and Dylan earlier on in the season, earlier on this evening in the race. So I definitely think there's a chance for him to make his way on the podium if we're looking at the raw pace between all of them.
Indeed. So phase 1 of this race is over and done with, and somebody who did not make out in spectacular fashion here in the second phase of this race is Tommy Kogan, who is now down in 9th after the pit stops, a 37.25 stationary in the pits.
I definitely think he took tires there. I don't know whether or not he meant to, but that 37 seconds there is definitely, sounds like he left the tires checked when maybe he didn't want to, and or he was getting damage repaired without a fast repair, which we do have 2 of those. So.
Indeed. Well, see, the thing is, if I remember correctly, if you do the fast repair, you can't take tires at the same time. You have to, I think you have to sit in the box to take the tires after the fast repair.
Yeah.
I know it's awkward. I just remember that it's awkward.
Yeah. Either way, but so definitely not somebody who I think benefited a lot from that pit stop. Even under caution, he's still one of the places back, and now he's battling with John Newman. Is I think holding him up just enough to where he's still continuing to lose time to Scott and Stephen Wallace.
Indeed. Speaking of Steve Wallace, where is he right now? Currently 2.1 seconds adrift of Scott Fleming. Tanner Schiffner has dropped back from Fleming a little bit. And if we want to go back and find some action, we're going to have to take a look at William Lewis and Christopher Blue. Now, these two duking it out. Kind of interesting, because William Lewis, not in AM category, even though the thing says it. Still trying to figure out why we end up sometimes with the data showing us old information when the league site still has stuff updated. But then sometimes it'll update. Anyway, SDK things. William Lewis trying to chase down Christopher Blue. Christopher Blue still sitting in that comfortable P2 position here in this race. For AM, I should qualify that.
Yes. Whereas William is P5 in GT4 Pro category. And I think he's trying to get by William Lewis to go take the fight to Ryan McCain to try to get a little more points out of this weekend. And I think he's having a hard time getting around Chris Blue, who is having a real consistent drive.
Yeah, Christopher Blue is kind of doing that thing we were talking about before, where he's just kind of nose to the grindstone, doesn't really do anything like all that extravagant, but at the same time too kind of flies under everyone's radar a little. And it's netted him 169 points in the GTAM championship. So I think he's going to keep doing what he's doing. Somebody who's going to try and keep doing what he's doing in GT4 AM is Anthony Newman right now, currently sitting in 4th in the overall for GT4, sandwiched between Tanner Schiffner and Ryan Buchanan. So, yeah, it looks like Anthony's doing quite well in the Cayman around here at Rudskogen.
I absolutely have to agree, and I think he would have to be pretty pleased with himself. It's having such a consistent drive and being up with all the pro drivers. Despite being in M category, I think it's got to be a good feeling for Anthony this weekend to really, get some stride and feel like he's improving as a driver. It's always something that it's fun to see efforts get rewarded like that, where the effort you put in off of race day, showing when you're putting in these lap times that are equivalent to the pro drivers around you. I think it's always a very good. Got to be a good feeling for him.
Indeed. Alexander Brown currently running in 5th in the overall. He is trying to chase down Vincent LaRue, although I think Vincent's actually got pace on him relative. Last lap from Vincent LaRue was a 17.39. Last lap from Alexander Brown was a 17. What was that? No, excuse me. Now we've updated our times. We've got a 17.57 for... Or no, these are the same time. So a 39 for LaRue and a 57 for Brown. So a little over 2/10 advantage LaRue. And LaRue's actually getting closer to catching up to Dylan Sauer, which would put him in podium contention.
Absolutely.
So LMP3 Pro Field is starting to heat up. Got to navigate this traffic though, and Vincent catches a break there. I believe that is one of the GT4 cars. Is that William Lewis catching, and now Christopher Blue actually catching Dylan Sauer out, although Vincent gets turned. The bad luck continues for the Canadian.
I think he's waiting to find that spot to where he can safely rejoin without causing more issues.
That is unfortunate. I'm kind of curious what happened there.
I think he just got...
Yeah.
I think Dylan tried to move in on him without anywhere to go, and at the end of the corner.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out what camera would be good to kind of see what happened here. I'm going to try out the chopper cam and see if we can see what happened here.
That or the rear chase might be a good one for you.
Into the technical section here. Christopher Blue's there. Dylan Sauer comes back over, and then there's just a touch.
Yep.
And I couldn't tell from the angle if it could have been close enough to be netcode, but that still was an aggressive move to the inside. And if Dylan's got a spotter, there's no way he was clear.
No, not at all.
That is unfortunate for Vincent. Again, finding himself in unpredictable situations and not really coming out better for it. Mark Hansen up into P5 after the spin. Alexander Brown in P4. And Dylan Sauer actually skated away in P3, although I got it. I gotta assume that there's going to be some look at that because that was just an interesting scenario. But go ahead.
No, I would have to agree. I think there's been a lot more. While there's been, I think, less incidents overall versus our last couple of races. I think the ones that have happened are definitely ones that should be looked at by race control after the fact. They definitely seem way more avoidable. Move it that way.
Yeah.
And definitely not something that could be, less, I think, racing incidents.
Yeah. Jaden Ledbetter trying to get his comeback drive plugged in. Currently sitting P6 in the overall. So Jaden definitely showing some, kind of that top of the class pace that we've seen from him in LMP3. But having to use it for the purposes of not necessarily continuing to build his gap in P2 and LMP3 Pro, but trying to use it to move through this field and try and maximize his points as much as possible. So it's not about maximizing as much as it is about trying to. Well, it is maximizing, I guess you could say, in a fit of survival, trying to scrounge every point he can out of this LMP3 Pro category.
Mm-hmm. Definitely trying to maximize, but not in a way that is helpful.
Yeah. Let's look back through the field. Field is going to start stretching out again, folks. So we're probably going to be looking at this field kind of spreading out a little bit. That's one thing I'm kind of noticing about Rudskogen. Kind of reminds me a little bit of a technical course like Okayama, and in particular the uphill double right-hander at 3 and 4 reminds me of Okayama pretty clearly. But the thing that I'm finding here, and let me know what you think about it, Finn, is I'm starting to see, because of the technical nature of this track and the fact that we are dealing with almost a 1 minute 20 lap from the LMP3s and almost a 1 minute 30 lap for the GT4s, we're starting to see this field start to stretch out a bit.
I would have to agree. The difference in pace between the LMP3s and GT4s, as well as the pace between the front runners and the back half, and as well as the Pro Am split of overall paces, I think is a pretty decent one that allows for a lot of room where they get really stretched out pretty quickly, like we're seeing here, where there's not a whole lot of movement, up or down as people settle into their pace and find their rhythm to make the time they have. Yeah, definitely because of I think the technical nature. I think also a lot of the high speed, medium speed corners that allow the LMP3s to really leverage their downforce that they have as an advantage over the GT4s is really aiding in how this field between the two classes is pretty spread out.
Yeah, we're gonna have to keep our eyes on the next round of pit stops because I think that's probably when we're looking at the field getting compressed a little bit more. But in the meantime, we're just going to keep taking a look at these races in GT4 right now. Looks like William Lewis losing ground to Christopher Blue, and Tommy Cogan has passed him, and that is not something that William is going to want to continue because Tommy's sitting in P5 right now. William Lewis sitting in P7 in their respective categories, or excuse me, in the GT4 Pro category. The gap right now between Lewis and Tommy is somewhere in the neighborhood of, I want to say, 18 points. So it's going to be, it's now on William to try and hang on to the back of Tommy and see what he can do in this race. And who knows, maybe the mix-up with LMP3 traffic could work in Williams' favor or not. But right now, Tommy Cogan trying to extend, recover. He's having to fight the war on two fronts here. He's trying to extend to catch back up to Ryan Buchanan and Stephen Wallace. Jared Jones out of the mix. He's definitely going to gain ground there. That's for sure. But at the same time, too, he's trying to fight back folks like William Lewis who are nipping at his heels a little bit.
Yeah, and he's definitely doing his best to maximize, get those good, find those brake markers, those apex and exits that we, fun, nice one-liners we like to lean on every now and then. But it's, I think, a good point that I think Tommy's really leveraging to find the time to, crawl all the way back up the order and, take that fight back to Stephen Wallace for that P2 spot there on the podium for the GT4 Pro category.
Indeed. So with us getting closer, so we're at 47 minutes, almost at 48 minutes exactly, and we're getting close to that phase 2 of this race being done, and then we'll be into the final stretch, the final 30 minutes when we pass that hour mark threshold. So far, Finn, what are kind of like your takeaways from the race so far?
This one, I think, is very much a different beast than last week at Long Beach. I think it's one that we've seen a lot more heartbreak happen as the result of interactions with other drivers, between spins from people due to unfortunate, braking at different spots and things of that nature, causing incidents, or just the pace differences between certain drivers, as we are kind of seeing a pretty solid battle here for P2 and LMP3 overall.
Yeah, a battle that got spiced up just a little bit as Gabe Chavez, again through this technical part of the track, gets tapped and finds himself off track, and now he's rejoining, and that battle for P2 is now spiced back up with Dylan Sauer and Alexander Brown joining the fight.
Yeah, it definitely is a different type of track, so a different type of racing is required to really maximize the time here. But I think it's one that it's still very cool to see all these new faces, and I think it's one where we really get to see the strengths of each driver's abilities shine a lot more, given the nature between the high-speed corners, the technical sectors. See a lock up there from Dylan. He's still fighting the machine. I want to say there's something with that setup that he's not happy with. That's been where he's fighting that car for time.
Indeed. Dylan, I mean, the LMP3s are a handful for sure. Dylan seems like he is hanging on for dear life, as he's still in the mix here with Gabe Chavez, although Gabe Chavez has had some really good pace in the LMP3, so I think he's probably going to be looking more backwards towards Mark Hansen, who's closing in right now with an 18.4 last lap to his 120.5. He did have that lockup, but I think he's probably focused a little bit more backward and less forward at the moment for Dylan.
What are your big takeaways? I mean, we talked about mine for a little bit, but
yeah, I mean, for me, I think the biggest takeaway has been traffic management. I think especially in the LMP3 category, we've seen the race kind of being determined by how well these cars can navigate traffic. Either LMP3s get bunched up, get awkward next to one another because of a GT4 in front, and then an accident happens, or we're seeing some really amazing racing where these LMP3s are carving through the GT4 traffic around a technical circuit like Rudskogen, and it's just really exciting stuff to watch. For me, that's kind of one of the reasons why I really love these old school, like, road circuits, is when you see this kind of activity on track, man, it is just so rewarding to watch. Oh, wow. I think we just saw a massive crash. What was that? I'm going to go back and see if we can take a look. Oh, Sean Sullivan's in the grass, and Jaden Ledbetter is just smashed into the wall. And that, I believe, is... hoping that's not race over for either of them. But it does look like a jump to the pits for Sean Sullivan. Don't know yet if we have a jump to the pits for Jaden. I do see an enter the pits. So he might have happened before the control line, and Jaden might have just limped the car into the pits. But man, that is super unfortunate for both of them.
Yeah, Jaden was able to limp it into the pits, but definitely very unfortunate. I don't think Sean has been having a great race outside of things based on what I've seen.
Yeah.
But still very unfortunate.
Yeah, it's been a tough. Rudskogen's it's a tough track. It's a tough track. These technical tracks in particular. Yeah, I mean I could not arrive and drive this course. I would fail miserably at it. But it does look like I'm looking at the off tracks for the majority of the field, and most of the field's sitting on 6 or less. Sean's sitting on 12, looking like he's having a tougher week here at Rudskogen. But again, that's kind of some of the things we talked about with like the drop round stuff like that. It could be he could have just triggered Jaden's drop round for example. Yeah, still more racing to watch at home, folks. We got Gian Cardoso right now getting harassed by Vincent LaRue on comeback 2.0. Late on the brakes, and Vincent's just making it look clinical.
Yeah,
Vincent. Yeah. What can you say? I mean, he's got the pace.
I'd say he's had the pace all week, especially all afternoon here. It has been unfortunately being on the bad end of certain incidents and getting pushed back down the order as a result. As he's been patient and shown kind of the great part about the respect I see in the racing here is he's not immediately trying to drive to fix himself and get back on the racing course, cause more incidents than he is solving by waiting. So it's still very his second comeback drive. I think it's something we haven't seen the last time yet, because he still is setting good time and making good pace through the field.
I'm really looking forward to that race when Vincent has everything go his way. Like what is Vincent LaRue's pace like relative to the field if things just go his way? Alexander Brown right now up into second, the newcomer, currently sitting a little under a half second in front of Gabe Chavez. Gabe Chavez, let's talk about Gabe for a minute. Gabe is having a heck of a race here. He's looking at a potential third in the overall. Massive points haul. He just seems like he has been glued to the track. But he's had a few incidents with traffic management, and we're seeing it right now. This is what I was talking about before. Traffic management around here is making him breaking races, and I'm kind of seeing Alex Brown getting a little lucky. The traffic is kind of catching Gabe in all the wrong places. Yeah. But
I think I've also seen the traffic be, a little more generous to Alex in some areas.
Yeah.
I think he's been at the right place at the right time, and I think it's been a good benefit for him. I think Gabe, in the vacuum, I think Gabe might have a little more pace than he does, but if he goes back to your statement on traffic management being so critical, especially in those technical sectors, where that'll either bunch up the LP3s or make it easier or harder on them in doing so.
Indeed. Ryan Bouquet, we were talking about him before in the broadcast, currently sitting 5th in the overall, and more importantly for him, in front of Tommy Kogan. Ryan really trying to extend on Tommy, currently holding that 4th place spot. Definitely looking at a 3rd place upgrade at a minimum after this race, with the fact that Jared Jones is out of the picture. But somebody that could upset the apple cart is Tommy Kogan. But it looks like Ryan's got, I don't know if it's traffic is catching Tommy in like awkward angles, because Tommy on paper has more pace than Ryan, but Ryan is just kind of driving around unaffected.
I definitely think it's Tommy's been another one of those individuals who's gotten unlucky with traffic. You can see him trying to avoid 2 LMP3s. They turn behind Ryan Buchanan in the background. So there. I think Vincent behind him dives in the pit lane for his second stop, technically.
Yeah, second stop for Vincent. Kind of curious if he's going to be doing anything different this time in terms of tires and fuel. Had to take that early stop. Stayed out front, did get the wave around, taking his second stop, and we're less than 3 minutes away from moving into the closing stages of the closing stage of this race. So it's going to be interesting to see. Anthony Newman also taking the pit stop now. Well,
I think he got a set of tires on one side based on the fact that I saw him up on jacks for a brief moment. But I think he's back out now and rolling. And Vincent also is away.
oh, we got a spin out here. Is Corey going to be able to dodge it? Corey does. Corey dodges Adam Britton. Loses the back end of the Cayman. Looks like that might have been on the exit of turn 4. And Corey, kind of haven't seen much of Corey this race. Had some unfortunate drama there at the start that we couldn't see the replay on. But he's kind of been just doing his own thing here. He's trying to maximize his points so that he can try and, just get as many points as he can in the AM category.
Certainly, and he's still P3 in the M category, I think, after the pit cycle, because right now he's a P2, but Anthony has made the dive into the pits, and he has not. So we'll probably see them, I think, dive in here pretty soon for the GT4s, and I think that'll cycle him back down to 3rd in position. So still very good points pennant for him, like you were saying.
Indeed.
Heads down race, kind of similar to Chris Blue. We've seen that a lot of the AM category drivers, for the most part, is very much racing their pace and being as competitive as they can be.
Yeah, it's been interesting because the GT4 drivers seems like they've been, like you were saying, they've been really kind of head down, just doing their thing, and meanwhile LMP3s have been dodging traffic and kind of just like carving through Rudskogen, kind of, I mean, dare I say haphazardly? Like it definitely seems like there is one class of car on track that is definitely taking some risks. And we're on board with Mark Hansen right now as he's trying to get into a situation where he can take a risk on Dylan Sauer ahead. And last lap from Hansen was a 17.8. Dylan was in the 18s, 18.3. So it definitely looks like the power shift is happening more in Mark's direction than Dylan's at the moment.
And I would say I think it's a similar experience to what we saw earlier on in the race, where I think Dylan is still fighting that car a little more than Mark is fighting his. But I've also seen Mark have a couple of lockups here and there, and he's also struggling, I think, a little bit with the machinery. But I think he's got it more nailed down recently. So we'll see if that continues.
Yeah, and that I believe is probably that might be our only, this pocket here between Brown. Oh, Sauer is off. He peels off to the pits. So that gives Hansen an opportunity to try and push and see if he can catch back up to Alexander Brown, who's off in the distance here, getting ready to go into T1. And he's got a back marker LMP3 and a GT4 he's moving around, and Mark Hansen is closing in on these cars at a clip.
That he is. That lapped car, I believe, was Alex Velasco. I mean, Mark is on a very quick pace to catch up to Alec Brown and bring the fight to him. I wonder if Alex is experiencing a bit of difficulty here and toward the end of the stint, and with the car being lighter on loads, the balance of the car kind of tends to change a little bit. If that's not throwing him for a little bit of trying to navigate traffic.
That could be possible. Could be possible. So we're in the closing stages here. We're in that back 30 minutes of our 90-minute race here for round 6 at Rudskogen. The Sports Car Series is going to close another one out here shortly, but man, this has been a race that has had a little bit of everything. And at the same time, it is also, well, it looks like Jaden is actually racing Dylan Sauer for position after the pit stop.
After the pit stop, yes.
Interesting. So Jaden still kind of with the fast repair being available to him, taking advantage of it and bringing the fight back towards the field. He's going to try and move up and gain as many points as possible. There's Ethan in the background. Ethan Hamlet, we haven't talked about Ethan at all because he's been pumping in ridiculous lap times, and he's sitting on the fastest lap in LMP3 of a 16.5 for race.
22nd.
Yeah.
Yes. 22nd gap to Gabe Chavez, who is currently in second place. So, we've not talked about him because he's been same reason I don't think we talk about him enough in most races. He's doing the right things perfectly all the time and is doing it faster than anybody else. And,
Ethan Hamlet continuing to dominate in the LMP3 Pro category, and yeah, it shows. Gabe Chavez being in second. It has been a tumultuous race for LMP3. I think that goes without saying, but I'm gonna say it anyway. Gabe Chavez, though, finding himself in second place with a almost 4-second gap to Alexander Brown. That is a good spot for Gabe to be in, especially as we're getting towards the last round of pit stops. Somebody that could upset the apple cart, though, I'm kind of curious. Jaden Ledbetter is in 5th behind Sam Wilson, who has yet to pit. I'm kind of curious now. I'm really starting to wonder. He is, I want to say, 40 seconds back from Wilson?
yeah.
And a pit stop with tires is running about, 24, 25 seconds, something like that?
24, 25 in the box, not including your timeout and time in.
Yeah.
Which is a little longer due to the fact that you have that bend in there before you're clear of the pit exit.
Well, let's look at that pace number there. 18.0, Jaden Ledbetter. 19.7, Sam Wilson. I think Jaden's got enough pace to at least catch Sam before this is all said and done.
I would have to agree. And I think the nice thing about it is Jaden was able to kind of limp his car back to the pit, so he didn't lose as much time as he would have if he had towed.
Yeah.
And so I think that just gave him that final pit stop early on versus everybody else.
This is wild stuff. Oh, you want to talk about wild stuff? Let's go find some wild stuff. Look at this. We got Scott Fleming. He's currently dealing with some backmarker traffic. Just waiting to see what he's going to do, because there's actually LMP3 that's moving through the GT4 field, and it looks like Stephen Wallace is diving into the pit. Scott Fleming going to try and push now with a little bit of clear air, and the fact that Adam Britton in the LMP3 category has cleared Scott Fleming. So yeah, the front end of the GT4 field we haven't talked too much about because they've been kind of like you were talking about before, doing all the right things. But yeah, traffic management again. I think it still could throw a wrench in some people's plans, just like it kind of has chucked a problem through Tommy Cogan's plans. This LMP3 is trying to move through a gaggle of GT4 cars, and Tommy's on the inside and still trying to chase down Anthony Newman. Is 1.2 ahead right now.
Thereabouts, yeah.
And for Ryan's on his out lap, or leaving the pits right now. I don't know where Tommy is going to pit. Tommy already has 2 pits to his name. He's coming down the start-finish line. I think he's going to actually pull it off.
I think so.
Yeah, Ryan is stuck behind an LMP3 that's trying to clear the field. And there's Anthony Newman. There's Tommy. Tommy's going to be on the inside line as they exit, and that is not what Ryan wanted to see in his rearview mirror.
It's the going to be a drag race down to turns 3 and 4, so I think it's possible that Tommy might be looking to lay it on the brakes and find a good move to overtake. Definitely a possibility here as we're getting a little bit of good racing coming up between the three of them.
Folks at home can get a good shot at that good smile racing Aston Martin. Some LMP3 traffic moving through, just catching Tommy at the worst possible moment and giving Ryan Buchanan a little bit of space. Oh, Tommy on the inside though. Oh, I know that corner though. It's kind of deceptive. Like you can be pretty far on the inside. I believe that's out of turn 12, like right before 13. But it's an awkward corner.
That really is.
Ryan's going to stay out in front another lap. Because Ryan just exited the pits, we don't have a good reference on pace other than fastest laps. But fastest laps being what they are, Kogan has a 5/10 advantage on Ryan. So are we going to see Ryan make a move or not?
Should see.
Traffic moving in through the background. 1 hour, 9 minutes is over here, Finn. We're almost to the last 20 minutes of this race. Pit stops are starting to come in. We've already seen a good chunk of the field already take a stop, especially in LMP3 with the exception of Ethan Hamlin, Sam Wilson right now. I'm just going to stay with this fight to see if Tommy's going to do something, try and get around Ryan, but it does look like the traffic is doing a lot to neutralize the pace difference between Tommy and Ryan.
I think there's also, Tommy's maybe waiting for that, I think that mistake out of Ryan to really capitalize on. So I think he's struggling to find enough pace difference between the two of them in the sector to make that overtake. And with LMP3 traffic, kind of forcing both of them off their lines a little bit, it's a little bit harder to keep it close.
Looking through the rest of the field. So this right here is kind of the closest battle right now. So behind Anthony Newman, we got Ryan Buchanan, Tommy Kogan. Closest GT4 fight. Sam Wilson diving into the pits now. We can actually take a look back field. See where Jaden's going to end up. Jaden actually, after the pit stop of Gabe Chavez, Jaden's only, what is that? We actually don't have a reference yet. Gabe Chavez is almost a minute behind him.
Yeah.
Although Ethan's going in the pits. Okay. I was like, wait a minute. That can't be right. A minute? You kidding me? He's got a pit. So.
Yeah.
But Jaden, only 20 seconds back from Gabe Chavez, is cleared. Sam Wilson. Dylan Sauer's going to clear Sam Wilson. Where's Vincent going to wind up in this? He's going to get around Sam Wilson, I think. Oh, no.
Probably not.
Looks like Sam's going to get to the exit road before Vincent comes around into turn 2.
But hot on his heels.
Yeah.
Not far behind him. They'll go down real straight between turns 2 and 3. Scott Fleming is 7/10 back from Stephen Wallace. That seems pretty close.
That seems interesting. Interesting. Anyway, yeah, so we got the class leader in Scott Fleming chasing down his rival on pace, for sure. His nemesis on pace, and that's Stephen Wallace in that Bucky's Mercedes AMG. But this right here could be some good bragging rights for Scott if he can put it together and get the job done on Stephen Fleming. You want to talk about what made a difference to the tune of 3 seconds, almost 3 seconds to the T?
I guess that pit stop time, right?
Yeah, that's stationary pit stop time. 23.85 for Steven and a 20.85 for Scott. Jaden Ledbetter moving through the traffic now and catching Scott Fleming in a moment that he probably would just, if he had something to throw at Jaden's car, he probably would.
There would have been a can flying out the windshield, those side doors if they have the windows that rolled down. But I don't think that's a feature they have because of aerodynamic. But open windows don't really do that.
So this pair has caught up to Anthony Newman, and Ryan has a lot of Tommy in his rear view.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
just pushing, applying pressure on Ryan, trying to force that mistake. Let's go past a Dylan, who's off track.
so Dylan, I'm not sure what happened to Dylan there. Let's see if we can see what happened, and we'll jump back to this battle in GT4.
I think he self-spun trying to avoid hitting Rispu, I believe.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Just gets the car backed up and back on the racetrack in a very non-dramatic way. Hats off to him for that one. Dramatic on the losing the round. Very clinical on rejoining safely. Textbook.
Yeah. Goes back to that thing. I think he's still fighting that car for.
Yeah. I think the grip is not there for him today. Vincent, we're getting some on board with Vincent as he's chasing down Sam Wilson, who also seems like he's fighting a particularly twitchy LMP3.
Seems to be. I think that's where that Vincent's getting all his time from.
Back in, stepping out. So into the technical section, getting lined up to go into sector 3. Oh no, they're just now.
Final start finish.
Yeah, they're just now exiting turn 14, and got the draft. Sam's going to take the outside. Here goes Vincent on the inside, late on the brakes, and we've seen Vincent do that move multiple times during this race.
Yeah.
He's really making it work out.
I think Vincent is very comfortable in his racecraft. Doing the car, he's very familiar with it on LMP3.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he definitely knows where he can apply extra pressure on the brakes with the setup and have it stick with it.
So fourth place, if he can hang on to it, that's pretty. That's a pretty good recovery for having to do two of them in one race.
Still got another 15, just under 15 minutes.
Yeah.
A lot of traffic to navigate by the looks of it.
You're not kidding. Like for the folks at home, you just take a look at the track map. Other than turn 1, turn 2 right now, there's a dot somewhere. So it's kind of crazy. But we're going to stay on board with this fight for GT4 Pro points. We've got Ryan Buchanan, who's trying to hang on to fourth in the overall, fourth in Pro, and Tommy Kogan trying to get every last point he can, trying to close the gap for Ryan.
Tommy is waiting for that mistake. I think at this point he's sticking with him, has enough pace I think to really capitalize on it. But I think he's just biding his time, waiting for the good run down one of the straights or through one of the sectors where he can get a little more time than Ryan can. Really make the most of it.
Yeah, it's gonna be a tough one. We're gonna check in on. I mean, we've only got one other close fight right now, and that's our two streamers right here. We've got Brandon Potts, the Phoenix himself on Twitch TV, and Wookie OH. Towards the back of the field, but keeping it exciting for their relative streamers. Be sure and check out the share your stream channel in our Discord. Follow along with some of the guys that do content creation while they're doing these races. It's a good thing that they get to do. It's a good hobby, and at the same time too, they're really good dudes. Especially Logan helping us get affiliate on the channel. Yeah, what can you say? He's a good dude.
Very good. Very foresight. So it's a close battle for them. I think Brandon's looking for that, similar situation to what Tommy is waiting for that mistake or finding that line. And it's a little harder to set up in this machinery than it is in the LP3, but definitely very rewarding feeling when you nail that set of corners just right and end up just in front of the person who turned over the fast ones.
Looking right now, and other than the pit stops that we've seen, we had the spin from Dylan, and it's been relatively calm here in the closing stages. Haven't seen any kind of silly moves out of anybody yet. Hopefully I'm not broadcast or cursing the field as I say that part out loud.
You might have.
As if summoning a demon. But traffic is moving through the GT4s, and it does look relatively clinical. Sam Wilson. Pass was done by Vincent LaRoe, but now Mark Hansen in the background. They go into turn one, and field's heating up a little bit in LMP3 for these two of those for the fifth step of the podium, or excuse me, the fifth step of the field in LMP3. Yeah, we got 5 steps in our podium. We're wild here at Track Limits.
Top 5.
Speaking of track limits, off tracks, again, still relatively clean. I'd say for a majority of the field, less than 8. Actually, I'd say for a majority of the field, less than 5. Yeah, it's really good to see good, clean racing like this when we got a technical track of this nature, I think.
And as many cars as we have, too.
Yeah.
Like, it's, 28 cars deep, and 25 of which are going to probably reach checker flag here in just under 10 minutes time. But it's, it goes back to the idea of, there's a lot of clean racing throughout this entire grid.
Yeah.
For the most part. I want to say Scott is definitely keeping Steven pretty honest here in the closing stages. He's had the gap opened on him between traffic and trying to navigate all that, but he's closed it back down to just under a second.
And Dylan and Steven were so close.
Yeah.
On the exit of 14, and Scott now down the start-finish straight away, looking at Stephen Wallace as he continues to skate off in the distance.
But that distance, that gap seems to be closing.
Yeah.
We're going to see. We still have those battles.
What do you think of those fast lap times?
The fastest lap times being identical.
Yeah.
It's perfectly cool. Identical. It is very cool.
Yeah.
But I think it shows that the pace they have is where they are where they're supposed to be in that P1 P2. I think it'll be that consistency between all of those laps that'll be what really solidifies who's taking home P1 here in the closing stages. And Scott's got an entire second to make up, and I think he's really got to get those perfect lines, and maybe a lap time that magically dips into 125s to really solidify a win here. He wants to take it away from Steven.
Meanwhile, Tommy Ryan, they're still going at it.
Mm-hmm.
Still going at it. This has been what, almost 40 minutes of them.
Thereabouts.
Yeah.
In various stages of closeness, depending on how far away Tommy has been. I think, again, they also share very similar. Well, not that similar. I would say they shared similar best lap times, but Tommy's got a pretty decent chunk to Ryan's best lap time, but their last lap time and their average lap time seem to be far closer together. So.
And I really think it kind of comes down to that traffic management. Traffic management has really kind of caught Tommy out in a way that has neutralized that pace that he might have in hand. So Ryan definitely being dealt a boon. And, we want to talk about a boon right now. What is going on at the front of this field? Traffic.
Yep, it's traffic. Traffic management.
Scott Fleming getting probably the closest I've seen this race. That gap when I switched the camera over was under 4/10. Mm-hmm. And Scott is just he's got a monkey's paw. He's rubbing a rabbit's foot. Like, he's avoiding ladders, not walking in the path of black cats, just trying to see if something could happen to disrupt Stephen Wallace's pace on track. And it just doesn't seem like it's happening.
And I don't think the LMP3s are really helping any of them, either of them at this point. So I think that's how they got into as close as they did in the first place, was LMP3 track effect holding up Stephen, and allowing Scott to get as close as he can. Meanwhile, at the very front of the field, I think Ethan just set yet another past the flap.
16.412. Oh, Tommy on the inside, turn 1. Ooh. Getting the move done on Ryan. He was waiting for that moment. They were in a drag race out of the exit of turn 14 with Tommy on the outside, and Tommy with the Good Smile AMR just had a little bit more straight line down that start-finish straightaway, which is a long chunk of the track, one of the longest parts of the track, and gets the move done in turn 1, and just like that, Ryan's got to hang on. Can't let Tommy get too far ahead. Get a buffer either ahead or fall victim to someone from behind.
But at the same time, that gap between them has just opened up as Tommy's driven away.
Yep.
So
because now the traffic is going to focus. Now the traffic is, I think, probably going to be a little bit more of a hamper for Ryan than for Tommy, because it just seemed like it was always working to the benefit of the car that was ahead. And now with that traffic kind of gone, Tommy can just stretch his legs. Somebody we haven't seen much of this race, Alex Velasco, currently sitting P8, trying to chase down Dylan Sauer, but has Andrew Monroe, who had really good pace in qualifying, and is just kind of like, I don't know if Ethan has some sort of like spell on the series or whatever, but anybody that's got pace that even remotely looks like it could disrupt an opportunity for an Ethan Hamlin win just falls victim of the worst luck ever. So take that for what it's worth. He's in the pits and almost cooks it and into the Armco. I guess he's got to take another pit stop to get good to the regs, or good for fuel. We got Logan and Brandon going at it again. Vincent gets a little bit of a micro lockup from that left rear. He's trying to find his way through traffic and does so, and now Brandon's trying to focus down on Wookie, see if he can do something about it or not. In this closing stage, we've got less than 3 minutes, Finn, and it's going to be decided.
Still plenty of close close battles. So the number of those is winding down as people find their way set, and those who had rougher initial races kind of make their way back through the field. I definitely think it's been a very interesting race. Definitely one that I think is probably going to be on the chopping block for a good number of drivers that we've seen higher up on their respective fields than they are this evening. But speaking of making the move, I think Brandon finally made up that's done on Logan. Well, they're still rolling too wide through there. Traffic's really holding up.
Yeah.
God.
Really catching him at the wrong time.
Yeah.
Kind of similar for Ryan. Curious if this is going to be white flag for Ethan or not.
I think it should be.
It's going to be close. I mean, he's got 25 seconds on Gabe, and man, Ethan just hasn't put a foot wrong the whole time, man. Again, kind of, dare I say, untouchable. When it comes to his performance weekend after weekend. Even when it seems like the chips are down or his back is against the wall, it seems like he's just got something special that he can just pull out of the bag, and then there you go. You got another Ethan Hamlet victory in your hands.
I think the big thing that I've noticed with Ethan is that he's incredibly consistent. And that is the thing I think that is something that benefits him a ton, is the ability to navigate traffic in a way that is consistent and effective. It really cements his, that ability that he has on top of the raw pace. As he takes the checkered flag there.
Indeed. Gabe Chavez is going to round turn 14. He's going to take second in the category. Let's check in. That's going to be a big result for Gabe. It's going to be a big result for Gabe. We're still waiting to see where. Actually, I think Jane will be coming around 14, and while he is going to finish third after what was a kind of a wild ride for him.
Yeah.
Stephen Wallace got a 1.6 gap on Scott Fleming. Rest of the GT4 field is basically finished, with Schiffner going to be coming across in third, and Newman's going to go fourth. Tommy Kogan's going to get that fifth place finish. That's huge.
Absolutely. Great finish for Anthony Newman, by the way.
Yeah.
You want to talk about someone who did a very consistent run and had nothing go wrong. That was one of them.
Yeah, and Anthony Newman sitting 144 points in the GT4 AM category. Definitely going to bring a points haul home in comparison to Corey Lobner, who finished down in ninth in the overall. Now, still relatively close in the AM category, but that's the thing is, all these battles, especially as we're getting into round 7, round 8, all these battles are getting kind of tight for the finish, and then when you start to factor in drop rounds, it's going to be very interesting. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is round 6 in the books. Rudskogen is done and dusted. We're going to have a short time off before we get geared up for Round 7, which is going to be Sonoma. And I've got the calendar pulled up over here. Let me grab that date for you real fast. That's going to be November 23rd. What's your feelings on Sonoma Raceway, Finn?
I believe, much like you, longtime fan of the track due to its tenured run as a NASCAR home, on top of its IndyCar presence and a few others. So I'm looking forward to it. It's one of my favorite ones over here in the States, in terms of road courses. Probably third after my local hometown of Mid Ohio and Road America. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be exciting.
So that's going to be great. But you know what's great right now to talk about is these race results, because Ethan Hamlin's going to walk away with another win. He is on track to be undefeated in season 1 and season 2 of the Sports Car Series. And if you throw in the box 3 SIMSA series and exclude round 1, correct me if I'm wrong, Jaden, he may be undefeated in that regard as well. Like, because he showed up in round 2 and then kind of, you won Watkins in season 1. So there is one blemish on Ethan's record. Finally a personal win. Well, that's good to hear, Gabe. I don't count Ethan. I mean, he's in a class all his own right now, so we won't fault you for it. But Gabe, with that second place finish, big points haul in pro category for Gabe. Jaden's going to come across the line in third. That's just probably the best on offer after all the incidents that we saw in LMP3. Also with Vincent finishing P4 after 2 comeback drives.
Yeah. After being involved in I would say so many, but like 2 really big, incidents that I don't think, I feel like he was on the receiving end of both of those. Seeing that comeback drive, I think, is very, if nothing else, it's, a good points finish, good comeback drive, and
yeah.
So.
Yes, Jaden. I will say you did have 2 comeback recoveries, although one of yours was maybe a teensy bit self-inflicted. I won't hold it against you, though. That's still a good drive, man. Still a good finish.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Hats off to you. GT4, Stephen Wallace, still showing us that when it comes to pace in a GT4 car, kind of unmatched right now. Scott Fleming keeping him honest.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a good thing.
I'd say it's a lot closer this time around than I think we've seen in a few other weeks. But I think without the aid of the traffic going in the favor of Scott, I think it'd be a little bit of a bigger gap between the two of them.
Indeed. You highlighted Anthony Newman there, 4th in the overall. Really good finish for him in AM category. Really showing he can play with the pro category. So might want to make a mental note there, Jaden. Anthony Newman, maybe destined for pro season 3. Who knows? And then of course the battles that we saw with Tommy and Ryan. Big thing. And Christopher Blue, who we cannot leave out of the discussion, doing what Christopher Blue does and coming home with a points haul. That's going to definitely make his championship fight in GT4 AM continue to extend.
Absolutely. Definitely, especially given where he started in this evening. It's very cool to see him work his way up the field, head down, nose to the grindstone. Just really good, really consistent racing from him, which is, I think, the thing I like a lot about the drivers that we've had take on these good finishes this evening and notable results between all of them is, that consistency across 90 minutes of racing.
Indeed. So, Finn, any final thoughts on round 6? I thought it was a banger.
I did as well. I think it was it was a little bit it spread out a little bit easier than I think we saw at Long Beach, but I don't think that's a bad thing. Everybody's running their own, has their own pace, and that track is a little more it's a little more evident that that pace is going to be allowed to breathe more.
Yeah.
I think, like you said, that technical traction, very interesting for the LMP3s to navigate without crashing themselves or somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
We saw plenty of that go right. We saw plenty of that go wrong. I think it'll
Yeah.
be something plenty for the stewards to kind of look at and assess what needs to be at least highlighted for as mental notes. But overall, great weekend. Great racing from everybody there. Very cool to see the grid size we had. All 28 that started, 25 that finished.
Yeah.
Amazing, good stuff to see. Really feel like it's hitting its own stride as track limits. So love it. What about yours? Your thoughts?
I mean, it was just fun to watch the LMP3s navigate that this track, this category. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I think this track probably more than others, traffic management was just the deciding factor. Like, how well do you navigate it? How lucky are you when you encounter it? And then kind of like, how do you arrange the set pieces of your race around it? Like, going for things like, do you extend in that second pit stop? Do you try and do an undercut? Like, those sorts of things, like figuring out where and when to pull the trigger to make a move or to go into the pits relative to traffic. I think we saw it decide a lot of races from the more dramatic perspective of like crashes and stuff like that. But I feel like for the folks that really made out this race, I mean, we didn't get to see a lot of it on track, but I bet if we went back and watched a race from an Anthony Newman or a race from Ethan's perspective, we're just seeing somebody manage the track, manage the cars, and this track more than others, I think that's been kind of something that is kind of shown. It shows in the result.
Mm.
But yeah, it was a good one. It was a good one for sure.
Yeah. I get the feeling a lot of that stuff that we've just mentioned will be stuff we'll probably be talking about at some point next time we're out here at Sonoma. If I remember that track correctly, and parts of that track get very technical, and don't have similar, I think, kind of pacing to where we have like the technical sectors here. If I'm remembering that correctly.
Indeed, I think Sonoma. It's been a minute since I've looked at the track map for it. I'm gonna have to figure out which of the parts of the track we're gonna see with the Cup historical. Because if we end up with the roller coaster section, I think we're gonna be it's gonna be a fun one. I also think that off track's gonna be very punishing.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be real punishing. Yeah, it looks like we might be doing. We will not have the downhill roller coaster section, but I still think that T2 T3 section is going to be particularly spicy, because the elevation change there in particular, going uphill, is going to be tough, especially when they crest the hill at turn 3A. So we'll see.
Very cool.
Navarra and Rudd definitely were. Next season, you guys created a mess. Well, I mean, that's kind of our job, right?
Yeah, I don't think we created a mess. I think we made a really good season. I'm maybe a little biased, but I think we made.
You get to be proud of it. You get to be proud of it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Speaking of next season, again, just want to emphasize to everybody, if you want to be a part of the action, as always, Track Limits Racing, find us on simgrid.com, check us out on Discord, join in, be a part of the action, be a part of the broadcast, hang out with us and chat. Sonoma, it's headed your way November 23rd. What do we think of your strategy and comeback, Vincent? You mean your 2 comebacks? I mean, dude, you got monster pace. I was telling this to Finn, and I agree with this when I think about Jaden's race too and his 2 comebacks, is I'd really like to see what a race is like where in the LMP3 category, everything just kind of just happens naturally. Where are you going to finish relative to Ethan in that sort of situation? How much does your individual strategy play into finishing order, that kind of thing? Probably won't ever get to see that. That might be asking for it to wish on a star, but still, I thought it was a really good comeback, and you should be proud of it, both you and Jaden.
Yes.
Anyway, folks, we're going to call the stream here, but what I would like for you all to do, if you're willing to hang out with us for a little bit longer, we're going to go over and raid New World Sim Racing. They're doing the Jimmy Broadbent Race for Mental Health. It's for a good cause. Definitely check out Jimmy's YouTube stream. If you can, donate. It's for a good cause. Those guys are doing 23 hours. It should be a banger of a race. Just a clown car full of baboons. So if you want to go check that out, we're going to get that queued up right now. And as always, hope to see you all next time. But until then, I'm Whelp Cakes. Finn, thank you for doing this again, sir. And we're going to see you all next time in Sonoma.